Hi, my name is Marty Bolden. I'm the Director of the Office of Youth Services. Welcome to For Young People. We have three really special guests with us today. Glenda Allen from the New Hampshire Minority Health Coalition, Shel McCorkle, who is the Weed and Seed Coordinator for the City of Manchester, and Bob Champagne from the Salvation Army. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit today about leadership opportunities for young people in the city. What do we as youth serving organizations and what does our community offer young people who are interested in developing skills as leaders and helping them become more effective voices in our community for some of the changes that we need to see to make this a safer place for young people in Manchester. And Glenda has a great new program that she's working with the New Hampshire Minority Health Coalition. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, on I think it was January 27th, the Manchester Police Department and the New Hampshire Minority Health Coalition signed a partnership agreement between the youth group and the Manchester Police Department to be able to have open dialogue and to provide a safe environment for the kids to be able to talk to the officers. They were having some issues around profiling. The kids felt that they were being profiled and they didn't know who to talk to. And there were other issues in the community, and they just felt like if there was a problem, they wouldn't call the police, that they would take matters into their own hands. And I felt that that was an inappropriate way of handling things. And we had a conversation, and we brought the chief in and talked about that. And he thought it was a good idea to try to partner.
Now, does the group have a name, Glenda?
Yes, they're called the Youth Group MPD equals Health Equity.
Okay. The youth group MPD equals health equity. All right.
Yeah, we wanted to do that because the goal was to actually identify social determinants in the health in the community that affected the young people's health. And when they talked about the police officers, they mentioned anxiety, depression, and things like that because they felt like when they would make the 911 calls, they weren't getting any response. The cops weren't showing up. So in identifying that issue, we just really felt it was important that we try to find a way to bring the officers together and the youth so they can have a better understanding of how the police department runs when it comes to a 911 call. So we had actually Scott Fuller come in, Scott Legacy, he came in and he did like a full hour and a half with the kids, and he talked about the process in which it takes place when someone makes a call, 911. It goes through this channel of hitting Concord and then back to Manchester. And the kids, they kind of got an idea of, what it was really like, what happens, because at that point they said, well, maybe it's not that they don't care. It's not that, they're not responding to us because we're minorities. Could be something different, and,
Nice.
So, yeah.
Excellent. So you've been operating now for a few months.
Yes.
And you meet about once a month?
Yes, we meet once a month at the Manchester Police Department in the Chief's conference room.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk more about that group in a little bit. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
So, Bob, you're working with Shel with a group called MVP Teens, Manchester Violence Prevention Teens. Can you talk a little bit about them and how that group got together?
Yeah, we decided, we had a lot of kids that really were interested in teen leadership, but there wasn't really a venue unless they were like the honor students through school to get into something like that. And so we got a bunch of kids together who really had some vested interest in wanting to prevent violence amongst teens and their peers. So we just formed a group of 10 kids, 5 kids from the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council and 5 kids from the Salvation Army Weed and Seed Teen Night.
And Shel, you've been with that group from the very beginning.
I have.
So tell me a little bit about the group and what their focus is and the kind of work that they're doing.
Well, we wanted to make sure that we could these kids come from all sorts of backgrounds, and so we wanted to make sure that they were all on equal footing. So we worked in the very beginning on a lot of bonding experiences, took them to a ropes course, they've done some weekend trips. But at this point, they've come together and said that what they really want to do is give youth a voice around how violence affects them in the community and how it affected them growing up. And then they also want to provide education to their peers and to adults. And the way that they've put it to us is that they want to tell parents what no one ever told their parents. So that's the education piece.
And so you all get together. How regularly does your group people get together, Shell?
Usually bi-weekly, because we're preparing for a conference right now. We're meeting weekly, but
Alright.
at least bi-weekly, and then we do one what we call excursion or experiential trip a month.
Okay. And you're, with that group, you're also working with Friends Forever, Bob. Can you talk a little bit about that organization?
Yeah, we partnered with Friends Forever this year. Friends Forever is an organization that takes kids from Northern Ireland, brings them to the United States on a life raft program, keep them here for 2 weeks. We just worked with that group. And then they also do another group from, I believe it's Israel. Israel. And so we're the domestic Forever Friends program with that group. And so what they do is do some training with our kids on different issues, like over the Martin Luther King holiday, we were up in Newcastle for a weekend with the kids overnight. So the kids are just getting a lot of training on how to train themselves, and it's a great program to merge with these guys. And now they're not only seeing their cultures here in Manchester, they're seeing them from other nations.
Well, Shell, you also work with Making It Happen as a youth leadership program. Can you say a little bit more about that?
The youth leadership is a little bit different. It's not actually a council, it's a program. So every year youth apply to be on it. There's an application and an interview process, and then 40 teens are chosen. And they come together 9 times during the school year, and then once before the school year and once at the end, to do different experiences. And then each day has a theme. So there's Communications Day, Ethics Day, Inclusion Day, Innovation Day. And what we do is, depending upon the theme of the day, there's panels that are put together. There's experiences. For example, for Innovation Day, they went and built robots over at one of the companies that's down in the mill yard. And it kind of gives them an idea of some other things that they may not see in school very often. When we did Communications Day, we brought together a lot of different backgrounds, attorneys. We had a veterinarian, financial advisor, or excuse me, this was Ethics Day, but to talk about the ethics that happen in your job every day. How do you make decisions? How do you decide how that affects someone else? And really explain to them the ethics behind everything that you do. So it was really interesting. And then Communications Day, we focused on how you both create a message and then how you get that out. And we did Ethics Day first, so that they were combined to sort of show that there has to be an ethical decision-making process before you actually create a marketing campaign and things like that. So throughout the year, they're given access to a lot of people they may not otherwise have access to. They're youth from all 5 high schools, and it's a really, really intense, interesting program.
So this is a program that gives young people an opportunity to think a little bit about leadership and what kind of leadership roles are out there for them to develop some leadership skills.
It is, and I think it also gives them the opportunity to see leadership from a different point of view, that it's not always necessarily the person standing up at the front of the room isn't always the leader, but it could be also the person who's driving the small groups or the one who's coordinating everything but might be behind the scenes, sort of seeing that their skills can actually be considered leadership skills. They don't have to be a public speaker, but they could have the skills to draft all of the copy that needs to be done, or they could be the ones that actually get on the phone and make all the phone calls to the people they are doing, for their important people piece. So it really gives them a way to focus on what their skills are and develop them.
All right. Thanks a lot, Shell. So, Glenda, how long have you been working with young people, and what's your favorite part about working with young people in these kinds of roles?
Well, I've been working with the youth group, I would say, for the past year and a half. And it's been a wonderful experience because prior to, I was just working in the community with adults. And it's just really interesting to hear the perspectives that they have about themselves and the community and how they perceive the community. What I find interesting is that they don't acknowledge their own voices and their own power. And I think it's incredible when they can sit down together and come up with these great ideas. I mean, things that are in school that affect them. And what I like about it is the fact that they feel comfortable sharing that with the other youth and also the police officers that come to our meetings.
So for this group of young people, you found a lot of joy in helping them find their voice and speak it out loud.
Absolutely, and what I try to do as well is provide educational opportunities I have Selena Taylor, who's like the oldest of the group. The age group is from 13 to 24. And what happened when she reached 25, she decided to become an advisor. So it's really great. And what she's done is whatever skills she has, she's created presentations for the youth, one specifically on leadership skills. And they included things like, acknowledging their own power, getting to know who they are, helping them with resumes and things like that, and talking about, school and, SATs and what that entails, because a lot of the kids talk about the fact that some of them are graduating and they haven't even been approached about SATs, which is really unfortunate. So again, it's a great opportunity for the youth to come together and to talk about, issues in their community. And what's even really nice is the fact that whatever they're learning, whatever relationships they're forming with the officers, they're able to take that back into their communities and say, this is an opportunity for you to come and talk to the police. And I know there's a lot of fear out there, but, we're doing it. So it's okay for you to, join us, come to a meeting and see what it's like.
Excellent. I find, Bob, that sometimes young people say things to us that we wouldn't expect or wouldn't really think about. And some of those stories are really powerful. When you're working with young people, what kinds of things do you learn from them that maybe the average person wouldn't expect to know about?
Oh, you just learn how much street smarts they have and how much they actually know. I mean, they really are in tune with their communities as far as what's going on around them at school and stuff. A lot of times they're not given the credit for that. We work, with kids mainly, again, on education, trying to break that whole cycle of dependency, get them post-secondary education. So I think the kids know a lot more than we think they know. They're very observant.
One of the things that Glinda said that I thought was really interesting was that, there's a group of young people getting ready to graduate and nobody even talked to them about college yet. And that is an interesting observation.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. So, it's interesting, when we sit down and we listen to young people, they can take us right to the issues that we really need to find the most.
Absolutely.
That was really powerful. Anything come up for you in your work with young people, like issues that have come up for you that were unexpected or you didn't think that they'd be coming up for you and then all of a sudden they did in the conversation show?
I think I find, kind of like Bob said, I'm really amazed at how much we don't ask teens what they need, that instead we tell them. There's a lot of adults, and I don't think for any fault of their own, but they dictate to a teenager what they're supposed to do, or dictate to all youth. You're supposed to follow these guidelines, or we tell them what their problems are, but we don't ask them what they think their problems are. And by doing that, we completely disconnect them from how to solve those problems and making them part of the process, and instead sort of make them just one of these pieces instead of the experience is happening to them.
Right.
And instead we want to sort of prescribe all the things that are going to fix it, but we never ask them what they see the problem to be. So instead we sort of end up solving something that they don't even care about. And we see that happen time and time again. So part of working with the MVP teens is we've made sure that every step of the way, even from the initial formation of the group, that we talked to the teenagers and gave them a voice from the very beginning to say, what do you want to do? What do you see the problem among, yourself and your peers to be? And sort of gone from that. And I think that's been a little bit eye-opening because I've worked with victims of domestic and sexual violence for 11 years now, and yet hearing teenagers, 15, 16, 17-year-olds talk about experiences they've had in their families or their friends have had in their families and how much it affected them and really shaped who they were, that on paper, but to see that and actually hear it from a youth is really, really powerful. So I think that's definitely had quite an impact.
And I think after we had our initial ropes course with the teens, what amazed me is they seen the power of that ropes course, and what they came back and said they want to do is identify some of the kids in different groups that have issues with each other, and they want to facilitate them into a ropes course because they've seen how much trust goes into it and how much bonding goes into it. When you're 80 feet up in the air on a rope, having somebody you don't normally trust holding that rope makes a big difference. So that's something that they want to do. So they realized, by doing it themselves, this is something that can really help in the community, but getting these kids together.
Absolutely.
And I think, actually, if I can talk to the ropes course, that was an interesting day because we were asking the kids to go up and do, 80 feet in the air and hang from a rope and everything. And Bob said, I'll do it once. And I said, you're crazy, not going to happen. But it was interesting because it never dawned on me in my mind. I'm asking them to do this all day long, but I'm not going to do it until Karam came up and said, will you do it with me and be my partner? And at first I thought, you're crazy. But I did it. But it was one of those, like,